The wind howled across the dry plains like a warning. Dust rolled over the cracked earth in restless waves, wrapping itself around the old ranch house as if trying to pull it into the past. Storm was coming, but not the kind carried by clouds. Inside the house, a woman stood still as stone. "Prepare 3 coffins," she said. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It didn't plead. It didn't plead. Ways, it declared, and those words would ignite a fire that would spread across the entire region. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wild Cowboy Storytime. Elias Turner had buried too many people in his lifetime. Or SARS, a short ride at 58. The rancher's hands were thick with scars, his back bent not just from labor, but from loss. He had built his ranch from nothing, fought droughts, cattle thieves, and loneliness. But nothing had prepared him for the quiet grief that settled into his bones after his wife passed. Since then, the ranch had become quieter, too quiet, until the day Clara arrived. Worse. She came just before sunset, riding a tired horse, her clothes torn by travel, her face hardened by something deeper than exhaustion. She didn't look like she belonged anywhere, and yet she rode straight to his gate like she had nowhere else left, foreseeing nothing as she dismounted. "I'm not here to beg," she said, her voice steady but hollow. "I'm here to work." Elias studied her. People didn't just wander into this part of the country without a reason. "What's your name?" he asked. "Clara." No last name, no explanation. Just Clara. He nodded slowly. "You know how to handle cattle." "I know how to survive," she replied, or stayed. That was enough. Clara stayed. Of course, days turned into weeks, and something began to change on the ranch. The silence softened, the emptiness loosened its grip. She worked harder than anyone Elias had ever seen, up before dawn last to rest. It wasn't just her work. It was the way she looked at things. She noticed broken fences no one else saw. She mended tools instead of replacing them. Or she spoke to the horses like they understood her. And sometimes late at night, Elias would see her sitting alone by the barn, staring into the darkness, like she was waiting for something to find her, or fearing it would. Walks, dust-covered faces, trouble, black coats, dust-covered faces, trouble. Elias knew it before they even reached the gate. Clara froze when she saw them, not afraid. Something worse, recognizing. "Horse and wood. They found me," she whispered. Elias turned to her. "Who?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she walked past him, her jaw tight, her hands clenched. "Prepare 3 coffins," she said, and that's when everything changed. Worse. The men rode in without asking permission. Their leader, a tall man with cold eyes and a crooked smile, dismounted slowly. Well, he said. "You've been hiding in a nice little corner of the world." Clara stepped forward. "You shouldn't have come." He laughed. He ran. "You think that ends it?" Elias stepped between them. "That's far enough," he said quietly. The man looked him up and down, unimpressed. "Old man, this doesn't concern you." "Of course, it does now." The other 2 men shifted, hands near their guns. Clara's voice cut through the tension. "Elias, don't." But Elias didn't move. "You want something," he said. "You say it, then you leave." The leader smirked. "We're here for her. She owes us." "I owe you nothing," Clara snapped. "Oh, you owe plenty," he replied. "You just forgot." The truth came out in pieces. Clara had been part of a group once, not by choice, but by survival. They robbed, they threatened, they did whatever it took to stay alive. But Clara had drawn a line. And when the others crossed it, you don't walk away from men like that, not without consequences. "Take her," the leader said calmly. Everything happened at once. A gunshot cracked the air. The horse screamed. Dust exploded beneath pounding boots. Elias moved faster than any man his age had a right to. He grabbed Clara and pulled her behind the well as bullets tore through the wooden fence. "You should have run," she shouted over the chaos. "So should you," he replied, "or stayed." He looked at her just for a moment. "So did you." The fight didn't last long, but it was enough. When the dust settled, one of the men lay dead. The other 2 had fled. And Elias was on the ground. Clara dropped beside him, her hands shaking for the first time. "Stay with me," she whispered. Blood spread across his shirt, dark and unstoppable. "You said 3 coffins," he murmured weakly. Her voice broke. "Or don't say that." He smiled faintly. "Guess you were right. Stop it." she cried. "You don't get to die like this. Not for me." Elias looked at her, his eyes soft. "Not for you," he said. "For what you chose to become." Tears fell freely now. "Or deserve that," she said. "Maybe not," he replied. "But you chose it anyway." He survived. Barely. But survival came with a cost. Word spread fast. A rancher had killed a man. A woman with a criminal past was hiding on his land. The region turned. Neighbors who once respected Elias now avoided him. Supplies stopped coming. Buyers backed out. Rumors grew louder with each passing day. Harboring criminals, starting trouble, inviting danger. They didn't see the truth. They didn't want to. Clara packed her things. "I'll leave tonight," she said. Elias, still weak but standing, shook his head. "No, this is my fault," she insisted. "You're losing everything because of me." "Or lost everything before," he said quietly. "I'm still here." She looked at him, pain in her eyes. "They'll come back. Then we'll be ready. You don't owe me this." Horst then said something that changed her forever. "It's not about what I owe," he said. "It's about what kind of man I choose to be." The final confrontation came at dawn. The 2 remaining men returned. But this time, they didn't come alone, and neither did Elias. The entire region had come to watch. Some came for justice. Some came for blood. Most came to see how it would end. Clara stood beside Elias. "More on again," she said. "Good," he replied. "Neither will I." The leader stepped forward, anger burning in his eyes. "You should have stayed out of this, old man." Elias met his gaze. He should have let her go. Silence stretched, where I stepped forward. "This ends now," she said. "No more running. No more hiding." The men laughed, but no one else did. Something had shifted. The people watching, they saw it. Not a criminal. Not a fugitive. Woman choosing to stand. What happened next wasn't just a fight. It was a turning point. Because when the guns were drawn, not everyone stood with the outlaws. One man stepped forward, then another, and another. Well, until Elias wasn't alone anymore. It ended quickly, this time for good. 3 coffins were prepared, just like Clara had said, but not for the reason anyone expected. Weeks later, the ranch was alive again. Not the same, stronger. People returned. Slowly at first, then fully, because truth has a way of finding way through noise. Clara stayed, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she had finally found a place worth staying for. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Elias sat on the porch. Clara joined him. "Worse things got," he thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No," he said, "because people aren't just who they were." He said, "Because people aren't just who they were." He looked at her. "They're who they choose to become." The wind still blew across the plains. Of course, the storm still came, but something had changed, not just in the land, but in the hearts of those who lived on it, of course. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the story of a rancher and a woman who refused to run became something more than a tale. It became a reminder that even in the harshest places, kindness can still take root. And sometimes, second chances don't just save one life, they change everything.